Right, let's dive into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a massive piece of business history, Jim Collins and Jerry Porras' landmark research on what truly makes a business endure. We'll be looking at the timeless blueprints they uncovered, but we're not stopping there. We're also going to look at some hard, real-world data to see how these legendary companies actually held up decades later.
So what separates a company that survives a decade from one that fundamentally changes the world? It's a fascinating puzzle, right? Over the next few minutes, we're going on a journey. We'll start with the allure of building a visionary company, break down the exact blueprints that were supposed to guarantee lasting success, and then hit them with a data-driven reality check.
Now, back in their exhaustive 6-year study, Collins and Porras identified 18 visionary companies. We're talking premier, legacy institutions that survived multiple life cycles and generations of CEOs. And get this, from 1926 all the way to 1990, this elite group outperformed the general stock market by a staggering 15 times. But the crazy part? How they achieved that 15 times multiplier absolutely shattered conventional business doctrine.
Section 1. The Visionary Company Myth. The authors kick things off by aggressively debunking some deeply held business beliefs.
They found that relying on a charismatic, larger-than-life founder or a flawless initial product is merely time-telling. Sure, it works for the moment, but it's totally dependent on that one person or that one great idea. What you actually want is clock building, architecting an organization that prospers way beyond any single leader or product cycle. The ultimate creation, you see, isn't the product itself, it's the company.
Which brings us to building a ticking clock. How exactly did these visionary organizations build a clock that could literally tick forever? Well, the foundation of that ticking clock is what they called a core ideology. It's a combination of core values and a higher purpose. It's the fundamental reason a company exists beyond just making a buck. In these organizations, profitability is just the oxygen needed to fulfill a higher purpose. Think of Henry Ford. His mission was to democratize the automobile. He didn't just want to make a profit, he wanted to make a car so affordable that the average worker could actually enjoy the open road.
And by doing that, visionary companies liberate themselves from the tyranny of the or. The idea that you have to choose between a high-minded purpose or making money. Instead, they embrace the genius of the and. They demand a purpose beyond profit and the pragmatic, ruthless pursuit of profit at the exact same time. They hold incredibly tight to their core values, and they vigorously change their operations.
This delicate balance is the dynamic engine of it all. Preserve the core, stimulate progress.
So the core ideology never changes, but literally everything else has to constantly evolve. How do you do that? Through constant evolutionary experimentation. You take small steps, try things quickly, and just accept that mistakes are going to happen. 3M is a perfect example here. They gave people the room they needed by letting employees spend 15% of their time on unproven projects. They created an environment where progress was almost accidental, but heavily encouraged, which, by the way, is exactly how we got the Post-it note.
But here's the catch. You have to preserve the core while you're experimenting. To pull that off, these companies demand uncompromising, almost cult-like cultures built on strict indoctrination. You either fit the ideology perfectly or you don't survive. Take Nordstrom. You either completely buy into their extreme customer service mindset and proudly become a Nordy, or you simply won't fit in and you're ejected like a virus. It is entirely binary. You're either all in or you're out.
Next up, the power of BHAGs. Evolutionary progress is great, but sometimes you need a massive leap forward.
That's where BHAGs come in. Big, hairy, audacious goals. A BHAG isn't just a basic target. It's a monumental challenge that pushes an organization totally outside its comfort zone. Think about Motorola back in the 1940s. Their founder wanted to sell 100,000 TVs in their first year at a super low price. His own team told him they completely lacked the production capacity to do it. But the goal was so audacious, it literally forced the company to invent entirely new ways of operating just to survive the challenge.
Let's move to applying the blueprint. What actually happens in the modern world when a brand forgets to preserve its core?
Let's look at the cautionary tale of Tommy Hilfiger in the late 90s. For years, Hilfiger was wildly successful with a very specific, accessible, preppy brand ideology. But then, their clothes got incredibly popular within the hip-hop community. Now, instead of just letting this organic trend happen, the brand desperately chased it. They temporarily abandoned their core ideology to cater directly to a short-lived pop culture trend. They literally started jeweling and studying their clothes. It was blatant pandering, and the market saw right through it. They lost the street audience because it felt totally inauthentic.
and they completely alienated their core preppy audience who didn't even recognize the brand anymore. Tommy Hilfiger himself later admitted that if it doesn't conform to the core brand, it's a massive mistake. It perfectly proves the rule. Yes, you must stimulate progress, but you absolutely have to religiously preserve the core.
Now for the fun part, a retrospective reality check. Collins and Porras published their findings back in 1994.
So how did these unstoppable, meticulously architected visionary companies actually perform in the decades following the publication? Well, according to 2016 data compiled by the American Business History Center, the results are honestly quite shocking. If you'd invested $10,000 the day the book came out, the supposed laggard comparison companies actually beat the visionary companies in 6 out of 7 modern stock matchups. Sure, Ford successfully beat GM, but comparison companies like McDonnell Douglas, Columbia Pictures, and even Howard Johnson's provided better returns over a 22-year period than their visionary counterparts.
Now, as the researchers point out, this data doesn't mock the original authors or invalidate their principles. Not at all. Actually, it illustrates a really profound truth. Keeping a great company on track is a brutally difficult thing. Even the most brilliantly architected organizations struggle to maintain the relentless, day-in and day-out discipline required to endure over half a century. Building the clock is one thing, right? Keeping it wound and maintained, that's another thing entirely.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a provocative thought. Whether you're leading a massive corporation, managing a small team, or just building your own career, what are you doing today to ensure your work outlasts your own tenure? Are you just telling the time, relying on temporary good ideas, or are you truly doing the hard, disciplined work of building a clock?